So, I just came home from work and saw something that I think is rather troubling, personally. I went onto my Facebook on my phone, as you do when you get home from work, and saw an article on War Thunder's Facebook page for the Challenger 2. Now, being British, naturally, this piqued my interest. Right up until the stage, I continued reading the title of the article, and it said Rank 7. Now, if I sound as though I'm not very impressed by this news, you would be entirely correct. But maybe not for the reasons that you're actually thinking. You see, I'm all for more tiers being added into the game, despite the fact that originally there were 20 tiers in War Thunder, and they got rid of that way back when, like patch 1.35 or something like that, 1.36. So, for this information to suddenly come just seems a little bit weird, and it's beginning to make me wonder whether War Thunder are actually just trying to cash grab. Now, before you all rage in the comments, or you all go, oh well Red, that's obvious, they've been doing that for years, allow me to add a little bit more to this information. As we know, they have recently begun introducing more top tier premiums. It used to just be, I think the top tier premiums used to be about rank 4. Although in the last patch, or the last couple of patches, they started introducing rank 5 premiums, when we have up to rank 6. So, does that mean that when they introduce rank 7, they're going to start adding rank 6 premiums, which will just be rank 7 tanks in disguise, basically? I'm kind of sure that might actually be what happens. Now, glossing over the fact, the Challenger 2 is its own situation all by itself. For the record, while we're on the subject, I don't think the Challenger 2 is actually going to be any better than the Challenger 1's. The armour on the hull is exactly the same, in-game at least, that's not changing. And you're still going to have the driver's port weak spot. The tank's only going to work well in a hold down position, it's not going to be as fast as everything else, and while the turret does have 500mm of protection, I can't remember if that's against kinetic or heat, I think it might be heat, but 500mm of protection, which sounds amazing. It would be amazing if it was at rank 6, fighting T-80s, T-72s, T-64s, M1 Abrams, the XMs, but it's not, it's going to be at rank 7. So what else are we going to have at rank 7? Probably the T-90, the Leopard 2s, the Leclerc, the Italian equivalent. What else are we going to have? Oh yeah, the M1A1 or the M1A2 with the 120mm gun, depleted uranium ammunition. So with all of that in mind, it's basically going to be meh. It's just going to be the same as the Challenger 1s as far as gameplay is concerned, in my opinion. That's from my experience. So don't quote me on that, that's just what I'm predicting. I'm entirely within my right to be wrong. Going back to rank 7 then for a moment, the idea that Gaijin are adding rank 7 when there are still loads of problems in the game persists. I know numerous people who love World War II vehicles over Cold War vehicles or modern vehicles. I personally am more of a Cold War nut, specifically tanks, ground vehicles, not so much aircraft. Aircraft I do enjoy, but not to the same extent. Take the European Canadian for example, his thing is World War II vehicles. That's absolutely fine. When you think hard, when was the last time Gaijin actually implemented a patch that had quite a few World War II vehicles in it? I'll give you a few moments. Okay, so that was roughly 4 or 5 seconds. Yeah, it was a while ago, wasn't it? Admittedly, they have added World War II vehicles occasionally, but they don't focus on World War II anymore at the moment, and I think that's wrong. Moreover, they don't focus very much on game modes anymore. What happened to the World War mode? Enduring Confrontation, to name just 2. These have more or less sort of just gone under the radar, along with the World War II vehicles, along with the balancing, along with the compression at top tier, which is pretty poor, even now. So what do we think it's going to be like when rank 5 vehicles, possibly, are fighting rank 7 vehicles, as well as rank 6? Low tier rank 6 vehicles, like the T-55. How do you think that's going to get on fighting tier 7 main battle tanks? Yeah, not very well. Now, I should have probably said this at the beginning. I don't like doing videos like this because I know that it just causes a shitstorm, basically. You get all of the people in the comments who are either saying, well, you're a fucking idiot if you didn't realise this before. You get all of the people in the comments saying, well, you're a fucking idiot, that's a load of bullshit you're chatting out of your arse. It never ends well. Nevertheless, I feel the need to pitch in on this situation. If you like it, great. If you don't, do you. I don't particularly care. It just seems like something I had to talk about, so I'm talking about it. I'd very much like to hear from you guys what your opinion is on this matter. Do you think rank 7 should be being added into the game already, or not? And what would you do to make it as balanced as possible upon release? Because I guarantee, if it's anything like it was when rank 6 was added, we'll end up with 3 or 4 tanks in rank 6, if not less. There will be a couple of nations that don't get a proper rank 6 vehicle. It's debatable whether the French have actually got one at the moment. The AMX-4 is probably the worst tank, MBT speaking, at top tier, in my opinion. The stock shell it gets is heat, which is near enough useless at top tier at the moment. It doesn't have any armour, not any armour that's actually usable anyway. So you see what I'm getting at here. There's usually a few nations that get the shit end of the stick, so to speak, and they grab that bastard very tightly before they eventually let go and they get something decent. So I don't have high hopes. Same as I don't really have high hopes for the Challenger 2. I want the game to add more tiers. I want there to be more modern vehicles. It's natural that Gaijin would want to pitch in, or rather capitalise on the fact that armoured warfare is basically dead in the water. Ever since the original developers, what's the word I'm looking for here? People who funded that game, we'll go with that, people who funded that game, since they dropped out and were replaced by somebody else, that game has gone downhill. It's been filled with a shitload of loot boxes. Some of the vehicles that you have to try and get are really difficult to grind for. It's just a mess, really. So it's understandable that Gaijin would want to capitalise on the fact that their player market is now open for grabs, hence the more modern vehicles being added into the game. People still want to know whether Gaijin are going to actually split up World War II vehicles, Cold War vehicles. Now you're going to have to consider splitting modern, Cold War and World War II. They wouldn't split World War II and Cold War, so good luck with that. Anyway, let me know in the comments section down below, on the comment section on Reddit, wherever else this vehicle ends up, what you think it's going to be like. Do you want it to happen? Do you not? Let me know. Me? I'm just hoping for another model of T-72. And I get my T-90, so